Thank you. Everybody, why am I over there? Everybody's over here. Okay. This is a bizarre thing. I just migrated to Eric there. I was just like, my guru was just. Okay. First of all, small apologies for the country and western voice. I've been spending far too much time in smoky bars, apparently. So I wanted to take this opportunity to talk to you about clicker training. Just as a matter of interest, how many of you have done any clicker training? Okay, a few. How many of you have ever heard about clicker training, but have been put off doing it because you're not quite sure about it, or it didn't seem to make sense, or you weren't quite happy about the food reward thing and all that sort of stuff? Okay. How many of you who have done it have had any problems with it, just as a matter of interest? Or have you all, everybody's used it, it's been totally perfect? Okay. Oh, there we got some indecision. Well, it was kind of okay. Yeah, we just used it the once and we didn't get eaten, so that was okay. Yeah, it's a scientific principle. My aim in the next few minutes is to just give you a bit of history, tell you what I think about it, why it works, why it doesn't, give you a couple of indications of some absolute things that I think you need to be able to do, why I think it's different for dogs to horses. We're going to get a couple of naive donkeys out here that haven't done anything at all, just to show you maybe a bit of the learning and the starting process. As Eric said, I did write a book on it, clicker training, the art and science of clicker training for horses. I wanted to call it for horses, donkeys and mules, but my publisher said people won't know what it's about. No idea where that came from. So it does contain pictures of donkeys and mules, and it's based around sort of 17 different questions that have been the most common things people have asked me about clicker training over the years. So there is a lot more detail there if you do. All I would say in my defense, if you go to Amazon.com, the reviews aren't particularly good. If you go to Amazon.co.uk, there's a load of really good reviews on it. For some reason, people in the States didn't quite get it, and I understand that, and I think I might reveal some of that in a moment. So read both sets and make your own mind up. So I started clicker training about 16 years ago, kind of by accident. I found a book that talked about it, wanted to play with it, understand how it kind of worked. And I started out training the same way that most people do with clicker training, which is the click as what we call a terminal bridge finishes the behavior and a reward. And that kind of seemed to make sense. That's it. Clicker training has a long history, starting around 1940 with Skinner and his students. Actually started in the mammal training world with dogs and raccoons and hamsters and seagulls and crows and ducks and chickens, before going into the marine animal world, before coming back to the dog world, before going into the horse world and in the zoo world, and then into every other world that there is. So people will tell you, yeah, clicker training is great, but it won't work for horses, of course, or donkeys, or mules. And about why would it work for every other species that's ever been tried with, but it wouldn't work with equines? Then people will say, it doesn't work with equines because they're not hunters. They don't hunt, so they don't figure out how to get food. Have you ever seen an equine that wasn't motivated by food? That's a rubbish argument. Yes, of course they're motivated by food, because in general we keep them in an environment which is stripped of the normal variety of food that they would have. So they are very motivated by food. The science of it is very simple. We are talking about the simple use of positive reinforcement. People talk about clicker training like it's some magical thing that's been invented and created. It's nothing. It's just positive reinforcement using, in this case, a clicker. Okay? It's the use of positive reinforcement with particularly good timing, but it's just positive reinforcement. That's all. The next question that follows that is generally, Ben, can I stop my horse from bolting with a clicker? Nope. Because if he's bolting, you better be hanging on. Don't worry about fumbling around trying to get your finger on a clicker. And secondly, he is unlikely in the middle of a bolt to stop and go, any chance of a carrot? It's never going to work for you. But can you diminish the chances of your horses bolting by using a clicker? Yes, you can. And those two are different. And it's particularly hard because I think positive reinforcement hasn't really come into the equine world in its own right yet. It's still a bit of a mystery, how we use it. How do you apply positive reinforcement to an animal that's kicking and get it to stop kicking by giving it rewards? You know, this doesn't make sense. We have to think around this and reward different stuff. So it's a strange behavior for us to work with. After that, people go, yeah, but Ben, you're going to use food rewards with equines? My God, they're going to kill you. You know, there's this myth, and it is a total myth, that you cannot use food rewards with equines because food causes them to bite. I have seen horses, donkeys, and mules that eat hay, and they do not bite. It is nothing to do with the food reward. It is the timing of the food reward that causes equines to bite. You know this. If you are someone whose their little donkey comes up and gives them a little nuzzle, and you, oh, he's going to learn to come up and give you a nuzzle. That's the buttons on the vending machine. Fantastic. Okay, now what happens is that if you know yourselves, if you ever put money into a vending machine, press the buttons and nothing happens, what do? You put more money in it. Wow. Okay, it's a worry. Most people kick it. Yeah, and that's great. And you know what actually happens? You go through a series of behaviors. There's a extinction burst where you press those buttons again rapidly just to see if it works. A superstitious behavior, press the coin, return, see if the money's coming back. It's not happening. What do? Give it a shake. And then you give it a kick. All this out drops the chocolate bar. Yes, kicking works. Fantastic. Wow. Next time you go to a vending machine, you put the money in that doesn't work. What do? You still do the other stuff, but now you know that's not going to work. You do it really quickly. Bang. Now, if your kick doesn't work, what do? Kick it again. Kick it hard. I didn't quite kick it right. Obviously, my kick was off. Maybe I didn't kick it here. Kick it twice. Okay. Now, that's what I call vending machine, but it's just the escalation behavior getting bigger before it changes. And what you see with a donkey that bites, they come up and they nuzzle and people give them a bit of food. They go, okay, so that's how you get food out of the vending machine. You press the buttons just here. Then one day the vending machine is empty or has its nice clothes on and doesn't want donkey slobber on. So the donkey comes up, it presses the buttons on the vending machine doesn't respond. Oh my God, no chocolate, what do I do? So you try harder, they push the buttons. Now at some point they just give you a little, oh wow, give him something to keep him quiet. Oh wow, I gotta bite the vending machine to get the chocolate out. Okay, now we just talk food to how to get. If your donkey comes up and stands with his head over here and he gets food rewards, that is what he will learn to do. It has nothing to do. I've trained hundreds and hundreds of donkeys, mules, horses with food. They do not learn to bite if you train it from the start. Okay? So, getting those things out of the way, the final common question is, do I have to click forever? I severely hope not. But I do see a lot of trainers who do click forever. 4 years in, they're still clicking and treating. Clicking and treating. Jeez. For me, that's like having a child that when they're learning to walk, you're giving them a lot of praise. Yay, good boy, well done, good, fantastic. When he's 14 and he gets up to walk across, yay, good boy, well done. I'm going to look like an idiot. It is a tool. That is all. A tool that we can use to communicate with an animal which behavior is required. Once they figure it out, we don't need to keep clicking. You know, when you're training your donkeys normally and they're nervous and you teach them to pick up their feet, I'm sure there's lots of good boys, there's lots of scratches, there's lots of positive stuff in there. You know, 6 years down the line, you're just picking his foot up and doing this. You're not still going, good boy, well done, that was amazing. Yeah, good lad, well done. Just for touching his shoulder. It's just the same process. We use it, we get rid of it, and essentially at the end, your clicker-trained animal should just be a trained animal. Just look like any other animal. So, overcoming those things, saying it's a real possibility. It's a very strong tool. What are the tools we need? Well, one of the tools is a clicker. People say to me, I had this discussion a little bit earlier, do I really need a clicker? For me, the answer is always yes, because the clicker, oh, I can get in the right place, is it's a really unique sound. It's not something that comes from you. People talk about tongue clicks, and I get it, the animal will figure it out. They certainly understand those things. But when the sound comes from you and you're trying to mark behavior, I think it muddies the water a little bit. I once worked with a lady who developed a kind of a 7-tongue click thing when she got excited, and just sounded like Bugs Bunny was trying to give the animal a reward. The horse kind of turns around and goes, "What the hell, what's going on?" But, you know, oh, food, yeah, that's good. Okay, so for me, you know, the scenario would be, can you play golf with a baseball bat? Technically, yeah, you can. You're just never going to be the best golfer in the world. And it's the same for clicker training. For me, it's a really clear, crisp signal that you can use to mark a behavior. So I'd always advocate the use of a clicker. Second piece of equipment is you need to be able to tie this to you in some way. So that when you're down picking up feet, you can let it go and it's all fine. When you're riding, when you're doing those sorts of things, you can actually have some control of it. A lot of people, you know, it's going to be a new thing. You've got a clicker and you've got the bum bag and you've got all this stuff going on. Really just have it connected. Don't have it around your neck just in case the animal puts its foot through the lanyard or whatever. But there's all sorts of stuff you can buy and you can do. You get really technical. You can go on eBay. Woo! You know, kind of 50 pence. But it does make sense when you're working with behavior and you're doing stuff. You can drop it, you can click, you've got it in where you need it. That you can get it on the. I'm not sure about the wrist coil. You have to develop a little bit of a strange wrist action. It's got me a few looks occasionally, which isn't so good. But have it tied to you in some way. Okay, there aren't many things, those of you who know me, that I insist on in training, but the next thing that I think you have to have with clicker training is, I'm afraid, you have to have what we British would call a bum bag. I guess you guys would call a fanny pack. And there's a reason for this. Food is very, very motivating, as I've said. And what I noticed is, when it's in your pockets, it's always there. So what you see with clicker trained horses where people are using their pockets is, they just turn up to see the horse and the horse goes, "Oh, hey, what about this? Can I do this? Is there any chance of some food? Oh my goodness." And they're throwing all this stuff at you. I just wanted to come and stroke you. Because there's a chance that food might be available. Now, I think that's really stressful for the animal, never to know, am I going to get rewarded, am I not? They're always on guard. They're always like, okay, can we do this? Can we do that? What about this? And that's not always great, you know. People teach their horses to do strange things like play football, which is great. And then the animal starts offering that when you're just trying to pick his feet up and you get knee in the face and you wonder, where did that come from? Well, I thought I was going to get a reward. Why didn't you say? So I would never have food in your pockets, okay? I know that's going to upset a few people. Have it in the bag. You know why? Because at the end of the first session, you're going to take it off, you're going to come back and go, hey, look, no food. All right, now this starts to bring it under control. You can just go and be with your animal, you can do stuff, and he's not expecting food rewards because he knows. If you want to wear a waistcoat, if a fanny pack isn't your chosen piece of fashion accessory, then for sure, just use a waistcoat that you only use for food rewards. That's absolutely cool. But make it obvious that that's available and when it's not. It really allows the animal to just calm down and be relaxed. When you want to just go and be with your animal and dink around and groom and stuff, you don't have to think about the animal trying to offer the behaviors all the time. You do have to train them to it a little bit, and I'll show you that in the first little bit when we get some donkeys out here. So we've got this going on. Do we have to use it with food? No. You can just pair it with some really nice scratches. So if you do have an animal that has a particular propensity to become over-motivated, stimulated, or aggressive around food, then you might want to consider just using scratches. That's absolutely fine. If you are going to use food, generally low sugar, high fiber rewards are really good. You can buy special little treats that are kind of, they're supposed to be carrot, but you can just use real carrots. That's probably cheaper. You can just use high fiber nuts, which is one of my favorites to use, just very plain food, very motivating. Chaff. If you've got a donkey that's on a diet, just use part of their normal diet, what they're normally going to be eating, and just use some of that broken up. It's really quite capable. The key is the size of the reward. What you'll start to see, and one of the things I'll explain, is the difference between dogs and horses. If you're clicker training a dog, you throw it a treat, you get next. Okay, you throw a treat to a donkey, it goes. I'm ready. Don't make your reward too big. You are going to be standing around for a long time watching donkeys chew. And the point is, it's got to be big enough to motivate the animal, but not so big it's going to take up a long time. So small treats, preferably. It depends on the size of the animal. If you've got a Chihuahua, it's about the size of your fingernail. If you've got an elephant, then it's a whole cream bun. You know, it's got to be relevant to the size. Have a couple of different treats if you can. It keeps the motivation. It changes because they can't tell or expect which type of reward they're getting. The only other thing that you might want to need to do with clicker training is to get some very expensive high-tech target that came off the top of a supplement tin. I'm clearly missing a trick. I'm sure I should be marketing some sort of expensive target that makes it really good, but you can just go home and get one of these for like nothing. One of the things that I'll do is to get them to learn is we'll just teach them some targeting first. Because the thing with clicker training is they got to learn the process of training and how it works before you start to actually do stuff with them. And I did a demonstration a number of years ago, and so I'm just showing you some stuff about how horses learn. I am not teaching you how to clicker train. I'm not going to sell you a clicker. We do the demonstration. It was a little pony, came in, and a couple of sessions he picked up a cone and passed it to me. At the end of the session, 20 people come up, they said, "Can I buy a clicker?" I said, "What part of no do you not understand?" Okay, because what you'll do is you'll go home, you say, "My horse doesn't go in the trailer," and you'll stand at the top of the trailer, you'll start going like this and chucking food and clicking, and the horse will go, "What the hell is going on? It's a nice day, and I'm liking all this food. I have no idea what you're talking about, but it's great." And then after a few days of this, you'll go, "Ah, shit, that doesn't work. What a load of rubbish that system is." Okay, and for me, you have to learn about it. If we put this clicker in a stable with your horse, donkey, or mule, it will not train it to do anything. It just sits there like that. It's just a piece of plastic. It's rubbish. The only way this gets to be a good training tool is when you pick it up and you put it in your hand and you start to apply learning theory and the science of behavior. What I see is people get this clicker and then they forget everything else. I've got a clicker. Oh yeah, click treat. They forget body language, they forget comfort zones, they forget shaping. They just forget everything because it's so powerful. It's so exciting to see your horse whinny at you and come running up the field at 100 miles an hour because it's so excited to get food rewards. It's less exciting for it to see it come at 100 miles an hour from the back of the stall to the front of the stall, but it's a very powerful tool. So just bear in mind, it is only as good as the hands that are holding it, okay? But you know that anyway. The final part of the jigsaw for me was I started off with what some of you would know as traditional kind of click, reward. That's what we're taught. You click, you give a reward. This is a terminal bridge, you give the reward. But what I saw was a lot of horses that became slightly aroused. So geldings would drop, they'd become slightly excited, some of them became aggressive, some of them became impatient. And it was very difficult, especially when you wanted to phase the clicker out. They'd be like, "What do you mean, no food?" And it became very frustrating. And some of you may have experienced this, and it really does put people off. And I have to say, I was watching a lady who was later to become my wife training a pony. And this pony had been kind of abused. He was 17 years old, bad start, all that sort of thing. And she's clicking, she's grooming him. And she clicks and she carries on grooming him. Now I'm watching this, and then she gives him some food and she does it again. After a couple of times, I'm thinking, wow, your timing's rubbish. But I'm smart enough not to say anything. And I stand and watching, and eventually I kind of go up. I said, "I'm just noticing that you're kind of clicking, and then you don't give the reward straight away. You're just doing stuff. and then you give him the rewards. She said, yeah, because what I noticed is when I click and give him the reward straight away, he always looking for it. So she said she'd be grooming him. She'd click, he'd go, where's the food? And that was absolutely what was happening. You're teaching a donkey, pick up his feet, you click, because it ends the behavior, the donkey would slam his foot around, turn around and look for the food. If you're walking, you click, the animal will go, yep, where is it? You're like, I can't ever get anywhere. I'm keeping stopping all the time here. And I watched what she was doing, and she was absolutely right. That's not the reason she became my wife, but just one of them. She's a brilliant trainer and amazing timing and intuition. And she just noticed that if she clicked and carried on working, anything from about 3 to 5, 8 seconds later, she'd just reach into a bum bag, give him a treat. And this pony, for sure, he'd stand there, he'd hear the click, and he'd look, and then he'd go, okay, I'll just wait. And he'd turn around and get it when she offered it to him. And how did he learn all this stuff and they all figured out? I thought, click, treat, that's what we're told. And we started to explore this, and every equine that we worked with knew exactly that program. That they were already watching the movement of your hand to the bum bag, because that's the terminal bridge. And what we started to notice was that there's a difference between dogs and equines. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. There's some subtle ones, like the time it takes a dog to eat the food reward and the time it takes a donkey to. There's some other stuff like we're seeing people with clicker training. They go to see their donkey and the horse in the morning, they click and they do some treat, and then they go away for the entire day. And then they come back in the evening and they do some more throwing food at it. And this vending machine just keeps turning up and giving food, and it's very motivating. With your dog, you go get some treats, you do some clicker training, you do that, and then you may be around him for the next 6, 8 hours in a day with no food rewards whatsoever. And then you maybe get some more. They very quickly learn when it was available and when it wasn't. If you've got a food aggressive dog, that usually means if you've given him his food and you're stupid enough to try and take it off him, then you're going to see some teeth. If you've got a food aggressive horse, you might be likely to try and find the animal coming straight through your pocket to take it out of your side. There's a physical difference. The way equines think and learn about their problem solving skills compared to dogs. There's all these differences. And if a dog kind of offers you the sit, the bow, the turn, the roll over, that was kind of cute. But if a horse starts throwing all that stuff at you, especially when you're riding or doing stuff, it's kind of a bit dangerous. Well, I just thought maybe this would work right now. And you laugh, but the funny story is there's the lady and she's show jumping. She's doing a clicker training. In midair, over the jump, she clicks. The horse hits the ground. Where's the food? Because she's just gone straight off over the top and he's jammed his brakes on, So there has to be something different. Now, for me, I loosely term it equine-specific clicker training. And it's been the combination of working with this. And over the last 10, 12 years of using it, I've never seen an equine that got aggressive with it, that got impatient with it, that did anything other than just learn calmly and quietly. So here's the difference. Instead of one click, one reward, the clicker for me is what we call an intermediate bridge. It's a keep going signal, a well done. The movement of my hand to the bum bag is the terminal bridge that ends the behavior. So I got 2 signals. What does this mean? Okay, I'm picking up the donkey's foot. Traditionally, I pick up the foot, I click, I have to put the foot down and go around the front. I go, here you go. Now the foot's on the floor. Okay, and the timing and the difference. Okay, for me, I can pick up the foot and I can go like this. Okay, here you go. So I've already got duration. I'm walking. Okay, here it is. Because you guys, maybe if you're riding or you want to take it to long reining, you don't want to be stopping every 2 steps of a 20-meter circle to be going up, giving them a reward, getting it all set back up again, all that sort of thing. So there's real capacity to use it in the right way with the animals. And it's about being able to phase it out, because pretty soon I can then just come onto what we call a variable schedule of reinforcement and begin just to mark occasional behaviors that are right. I can just use a clickless reward where I just reach in and go, here you go. Then we phase out the food and hey, wow, you're just left with a behavior. It's kind of like that. What I find is there are a couple of things you have to do. And And I'm going to try and just show you this with some learning. What you'll see is, this is a novel object. Depending on the donkeys that come in, I've never seen them or worked with them or anything like that. We show them a novel object. With any luck, they'll have a look at it and we'll give them a click and a reward. And like magic, they'll start to focus on here and I'll take it away and bring it back and touch. Then after a little bit, they'll go, what the hell? Why am I touching that when there's a load of food just here? I'll cut out the middleman and just go for the food. That'll save time. And you know what? In evolution, equines never went over there to get something that's just here. That doesn't make sense. Why do it? It's the first challenge of clicker training for any animal. I got to touch that to get what's just there. Listen, you crazy two legs. Why don't you just give it me straight from the pocket? Save a lot of time. We can just go on and go back to work, you know? So you're going to suddenly see, looks like a failure, and they've forgotten it, and they start doing this. Now, immediately when equines start doing that, people start going like this. Go off. No, don't. Just going to teach him to mug, pack it in. Okay? I'm going to argue that that's not quite right. So I'm going to say to you, if I had a $100 bill in my hand, and I said you could have it if you could open my hand, would you make a fair effort to try and open my hand and get it out? Depends on how much you need a $100 bill, but there's a fair chance, okay? Now, if I don't let you get anywhere near my hand, because I keep moving it over here, are you going to be more persistent because you want to get to my hand to be able to find out whether you can open it to get the $50 bill, a $100 bill? Yeah. Of course you are, because that's where the money's at. What about if I just go, here it is, but I don't let you open my hand? How quickly will you give up? Pretty quick. Yeah. And that's what happens for me. So with the equine, what's going to happen? People are going to hide their there, and all they're saying is, that's not working, I'm fending you off. I mean, they don't ever let the animal find out that mugging doesn't work. So for me, I'm going to let the animal find out mugging doesn't work. He's going to get this, he's going to do that, and he's going to... doesn't work. Okay, what about this? Oh, you touch that, here's a reward. You figure it out. 2 sessions, most equines will figure out that this doesn't work, and from then on you can just stand there with a nice open bag full of food and they're not going to get in there. Apart from the occasional, are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure, get back. Okay. They're going to figure it out, but you have to let them explore the possibility. If you never let them explore it, they're never going to figure out it doesn't work. So we've got that going on. We're going to see a little bit of that. We'll just see them touching it, the target, come back and forth. You're going to see the different learning styles that every animal has. Okay? Some of them are going to take some time to process. Some of them might make quick decisions, maybe 2-3 seconds. Others are going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 seconds before they make choices about what to touch and when to get the reward. Okay? You're working with the individual nature. You're going to see what should be the easiest thing in the world. Touch their big green target and get the food. You're going to see how difficult that is. Okay? And what always amazes me is if that's difficult, think of every single thing else we try to teach them. Because this should be so easy. Touch, get a food reward. How difficult can that be? Really difficult. The advantage of the clicker is only timing. Improved timing. It's a marker signal that bridges the gap between touching that and getting the food out of here. Between picking your foot up and getting the food. Between taking a step on the trailer ramp and getting the reward. It just bridges the gap. That's all it does. It's just communication to say, that's what I wanted. And here's the food reward that goes with it. It's just an association. We maintain the power of the reward by having a variable schedule. So sometimes I'll wait 2-3 seconds, sometimes 5 seconds, sometimes 8 seconds, because the science says that at the shortest term is 8 seconds for short-term memory for equines. Some of them have got a 60-second or more short-term memory, but some seem to have a lot less. So don't take the risk. Just mix it up a little bit. And what you do is you create a lot of patience, because the animal doesn't know exactly when the reward's going to come. So they start to keep offering and they start to keep working and they develop that patience that you want in the animal, as opposed to an animal that is expecting the reward, which is what you see with 1 click, 1 reward. 1 click, 1 reward. What you tend to see is the animal expecting it, and then they get frustrated if it doesn't turn up quick enough. Just like that child in the supermarket that, mummy, 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 I want this, can I have it, can I have it, can I have it? And they've got so excited because they've anticipated the reward, it's going to be amazing, and you go, no. So they calmly go, okay, that's fine then, mummy, no problem at all, I'll just put this back on the shelf, it'll be lovely. Never mind, how disappointing. Not because they're naughty, but because of the complete contrast between the anticipation of something exciting and the dopamine release in the brain to suddenly having that crash down. And I see a lot with equines now that are anticipating the reward and it doesn't work. Should we find those donkeys? And they're probably hiding on the other side of that tunnel. They can come on in. I would always say there are some limitations for clicker training. Some of them are based around the trainer. Some of them are based around the animal. So I would certainly, things like an animal that was really nervous or unhandled, such as our BLM donkeys, I would never really advise using clicker training to start with them. Why? Because I think actually what happens is you get a false read. You're giving this clicker, it's really powerful and it's really good, and then you go to do something more than you'd done in the deal before, and then it goes, what the hell? And they kick out and turn, and you never had any idea that was going to happen. I'd rather build the relationship first with the positive reinforcement with scratches and with negative reinforcement, and take it from there. Wow, they look really excited by the opportunities.
Should the reward come from the person
Thank you.
clicking, or
Yeah.
can you use two people?
You can use two people. In some ways it's easier to start with one. Now remember that if you're going to do clicker training, you're kind of green too. You've got a clicker, you've got a bum bag, you've got a target, you've got a donkey. Holy hell, how does all this stuff work? So you need to cut yourself some slack, and it's really nice if you can start with an animal that is kind of patient and slow, and you've got a chance to learn yourself. Sometimes maybe if you don't have that type of animal, better to practice a little bit with the dog or the chinchilla or the goldfish or something like that. I've trained all of those, so don't laugh. You can train a goldfish, it's absolutely possible to get your skills up so that you influence the animal. So let's just have a, hello? Did I go flat there? Okay, so this would be normal behavior as you would anticipate. Oh, undo the zip. Here's a donkey after all. So a horse would have just tried to tear it off. But it's a donkey, so. And it just, this really, this is as much as we can kind of show you in a demonstration like this that doesn't have a trained equine that's already experienced it, just this association. It's over here. It's going so well so far. See, it looks like magic, doesn't it? It's amazing. He's just sniffing it. He has no idea how this game works yet. Do you see what I mean? Yep. He said, what about this? Does this work? Oh, some people. Hell, where'd they come from? Now, what you need to be really aware of is creating the correct environment for your donkey, which probably wouldn't having a dangly thing from your pocket or wrist probably wouldn't be part of it. Can you see what I said, This was going really well. I was looking really good. And now he's decided that, oh, your hand smells of food. Yeah, this is a really complex task and I can't figure it out.
You're waiting for him to discover.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, on helping. Here's what people do. They get this and then they go. Yeah, they put it here and then they touch their nose with it. Now that's a different behavior, okay? You can make it easy. He has no idea what he's doing. See, the point of clicker training is we need to be really quite specific with calmly like that. You don't want to start with it all the way over here. That would be a little bit unrealistic. You're just trying to create repetition. The animal has to learn that when he touches this, he gets a food reward. Be really careful not to do things like when he just touches the top of it and pushes it down that you click excitedly because that was close enough, because then he'll just learn to push it down on the top. Okay, you can see he's just trying to figure stuff out, and that's what I love about some clicker training is that the animal trying to eat the microphone, trying to just figure out what works. This is all normal behavior. I said this should be the simplest task in the world. He shouldn't be just stood here, touch that, get the food, click, touch it. We should be going so fast, but that's not actually how it works. in a little bit of a strange environment. Quite often it's nice to use a target that's got a little stick on the end or something like that. It's a bit of length so you can move it around. And this is the real important thing, and this is why a lot of people struggle with it, because they don't set the animal up to succeed to start with.
Word command out,
A word command.
or like say touch.
Why would that help, sir? Okay, here's the thing. Do you do a lot of ballroom dancing? You don't? Okay. So if I yell at you right now, foxtrot, will you know what to do? No. Okay, touch. Okay, the point I'm getting at in a really clumsy way is not to make fun of you, but to show that the cue doesn't come in until the animal knows the behavior. Okay, if we start doing some lessons, and while we're doing those lessons, I start telling you that we've done the foxtrot, yeah? It comes to a point where I yell foxtrot at you, you'd offer me that dance because that's the only dance you know and it might be a foxtrot. And this again is kind of normal behavior. This is what you'd expect. To try not to let him get the rewards if you can. If you get a particularly persistent animal that's maybe a bit more food aggressive, thank you. You can do it over a stable door or a stable chain so you've got a bit of space. No, because the touch, no. The clicker just marks the correct behavior. Because I could be picking up his feet, I could be asking him to take a step, I could do whatever it is. Undo the zip. All the clicker does is teaching this association between whatever you're doing just here and getting the food reward over there. Okay? And there's a lot of frustration. I want to get this done, give me the food rewards. If you're a fella, just be careful where you put your bum bag, you don't want to get the bite in the wrong place. But can you see, what's interesting is the learning that's going on. It should be so easy. Touch the target and get the food reward. How difficult is this? Well, it's quite difficult when 60 million years of evolution have said, we'll just go straight to the food reward. It's the normal process that you would see in some learning. Trial and error. And it depends on how persistent the animal is, whether they've had food rewards previously, all that sort of thing is how long they kind of go with the bum bag thing. But what he's doing right now is eliminating everything that doesn't work.
Do you ever use different levels of treats?
Yep. So there might be different value rewards. If you really want to know what your animal likes, throw a few on the ground, on the yard, see what they hoover up first.
What would be why wouldn't giving him the reward closer to the green square help the learning curve move faster?
What do you mean? In what way?
He touches, you put it in your other hand, which directionally moves it away from him, and then you give him the food source. What if you have put the food source closer to the square? Would he then associate it with the square and not the clicker? I'm still not making it. Feel like putting him to play.
Well, I know what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, I get it.
Go ahead and click it, but it's just physically the system you're using now. You have it in your left hand.
Yeah.
So after the clicker, you have to move it over to your other hand, give it retreat out, put it back over, and if you fed it closer to the green square, I wondered if it would move the learning curve faster.
Yeah. What I've discovered is the reason I tend to do that is because if you have your clicker in one hand and you keep putting food in this hand smells of food and has something in there that should be edible. So the animal tends to focus a lot more on here because it makes sense that this is something that you should be eating. And then the animal bites it and learns to click itself, which is truly amazing training. So there's a tendency, although it looks a bit clumsy, just to let that animal figure this stuff out. And you know, these guys are kind of interesting because, you know, they've had a little bit done, they've been holder broken, that, but they've not had a huge amount of experience of doing lots of strange things for humans. So this persistence is what people really struggle with. You know, it makes sense, and there's a little bit of frustration, and we're like, I just want to get in here and get this food reward, and it should be really easy. Oh, there we go. So I'm just looking for a good place to finish, because most clicker training sessions should be 15, 20 minutes at most. You know, we can change our position a little bit to kind of engineer it if it makes it easier. But I'm a great believer in just letting the animal figure it out. You want to create the problem solving and the trust, and that's okay. Nice, okay. So we give a little bit of a jackpot there, fantastic, jolly good. Now, in order to carry on the session, guess what? Come get me, big boy, girl, whatever it is, sorry. Okay, we're still training, because I talked about this bum bag. We want them to be able to learn that when the bum bag's not there, there's no food. But they're gonna have to come back and explore that. And what you want to do in the first couple of sessions is just do what I've done, take it off, let the animal figure out that food rewards are only available when the bum bag's there. This is part of putting it under control, making sure that they don't do the old biting and mugging behavior, but they're gonna have to explore it. You spend all this time convincing them to have food, and now you want to see that. That's what you want to see. You want to see your animal wander off. Cool. Let's swap animals, if we may. Let's see if this one's any different. Yeah. Oh, waving a different target. Why not? Let's just bring in improvision. I love it. Yeah. Let's try your target. Something different all the time. I can't even get to mine. It's a very expensive occupation, having clicker training. Most clicker trainers, that's why you're never going to get rich being a clicker trainer, you know, unless you can invent something that everybody must have. Now you can already see this is a different donkey in terms of its learning style. It's much more apprehensive. Your guys at home, they know you, they're going to be much faster on this, but it is lovely to see the different learning styles. Just be aware, we may now have picked the wrong kind of target, you know, a stick in your hand, depending on what sort of treatment your animals had previously. It's kind of an interesting thing. So just about setting it all up. Lovely. And you just see these different learning styles that different equines have, how accurate they are, how worried they are about their friend leaving. You know, I think part of the thing about clicker training is it causes you to really look at behavior and really look at how your animal's thinking and what it's doing. It causes you to focus on your timing. Because actually the animal's got to offer the behavior that you then say, yep, that's what I wanted. And once you get them going, and once they start to understand it, they just learn to learn so quickly. It's phenomenal. Phenomenal, the speed. And one of the limitations I would say, listen, don't do clicker training if you don't want an animal that's going to think. Okay? If you're gonna switch an animal on and teach him to solve problems and think about things and offer behavior, don't do that if you're going to get cross when you go down and find he's just got out the stall and gone across the yard and has managed to take 3 of his friends with him, you know, because maybe, I don't know if it's at all possible, do you think that fella could come back a little bit this way? I may be asking for too much.
Can I ask a question related to that, which is, we often, when we see training, it's done on an isolated donkey.
Yep.
And yet, in a lot of
Fabulous.
environments, you have pair bonding involved.
Brilliant.
Birds that are interfering with anxiety levels or just, so
Yep.
on. So
Yeah. So absolutely great observation. There's a little bit of what. Good. Did you notice? I just wanted to point out the difference between his first entry into the arena and the second entry back towards me. Very motivating. So yeah, absolutely. I've clicker trained one donkey in a barn with 80 other donkeys. Okay, but the first 3 sessions were teaching 79 donkeys they weren't going to get a food reward. Okay, after that I'd go in, they'd look at me and go, ugh, leave me alone. And the one donkey we could work with. Yeah, if you've got 2 donkeys to work with, then that's fine. They figure out really quickly that we're working with them. People tend to see this donkey is very accurate. It's your target stick, available from Dr. Eric Davis, $19.99. If you want the organic cotton version, that's $27. This is a really interesting donkey, and it kind of makes sense if you look at their behaviors. Much quieter, much calmer, much less likely to come into my space and be pushy. This guy, everything about him, much more in your face, much more pushing, learn to use his weight, so that his behavior is consistent with what we're seeing, compared to this youngster here that's like, yep, I'll just do that, that's fine. Don't know what else works, but just keep doing it. Oh, sorry. You know what? He just made a real conscious choice. Up till then, he'd been having these super little luxury treats here. Doesn't like carrots. So, yeah, anytime you're ready. You know, what I also like is you should be having some fun with your training, you know? It all gets a bit hectic and everybody gets a bit too on top of things. If you want to do it with long reining, you can do it. If you want to do it ridden, you know, just have a little stick here, tape the clicker to the stick. You can carry it as if you were having a whip. You can just use it when you're ridden. You can reach round. They know about the shift of your weight. Really good, lovely. Okay, let me just finish this one off. That was really nice, really quick. Finish early, go home, drop everything on the floor. Just give that opportunity to realize that if there's no bum bag, there's no food rewards. Totally different day. And what's good about seeing it in isolation is you're seeing the differences between the 2 donkeys. I think when you get home, you got 1 donkey, 2 donkeys. Your donkey doesn't, he doesn't like it. You know, he's just a different donkey, different speed of learning, different processing times, different character. And it's really important to kind of recognize this. This is just about learning. Okay, would you like to swap over? I bet you would, yeah. Okay, so, you know, what can you use it for? You can use it for anything that you can think of. Simple behaviors for picking up feet and doing that sort of thing, to training the animal to lead, walk, do shoulder in, tricks. I'm not a great believer in teaching tricks personally. I think it humanizes the animal. If it's for mental stimulation, all I'd say is be really careful about the tricks that you do teach if you choose to do that. You know, people do things like, they do crazy stuff like teach your donkey to kiss you. That's a really nice behavior that could go a little bit wrong somehow. Kicking the ball is another exciting behavior that they offer. Again, unless you want an animal that's going to kick lots of stuff, including you, I probably wouldn't teach that. Haven't pushed a ball around by their nose if you want to. Okay, so let me finish with another little session here. Let's just see, we've changed the target here, but the process would be the same. I've swapped hands, so I put it in this hand. What you're seeing is the donkey's beginning to... You know, the important part of clicker training is not just the click, it's knowing when to withhold the click. The silence, people tell me, oh, clicker training is 100% positive. No, it's not, because there's frustration involved in being able to find the right target and do that. So the silence is effectively saying, no, that doesn't work. I'm trying to mark him just for touching the target, not for nibbling the target. And you get started like this. I didn't reward that because he was going to chew it. going to go around, ask some other questions. He's going to want to go back to his friends over there. He's probably got to.
How much do you think donkeys can learn from observation? Because I don't know how much he's paying attention yet. I've been using a different target now. Do you think they can learn from observation? I've heard different opinions on that.
No. Scientifically, I understand there's been lots of trials to try and prove observational learning, but it's never been proven. Can they learn about calmness? Can they learn an environmental kind of cue that it's nothing scary here? Yeah. But if they could learn from observation, that'd be great. What we just do is get your dressage horse out here that's been well trained. You do it. You have the 4-year-old standing watching. So get ready, mate. You're going to do that in a minute. I know that's not what you mean, but to that extreme, they can learn that there's nothing to fear here, and therefore they explore more. But that's the specifics. There's no science that says the observational learning. You can't learn from observational learning. If I give you a small task, you have to do it to learn. You might learn that task is okay or some elements of it, but you have to physically pick it up and fiddle with it and do it and that sort of thing. So it isn't really there. It's something people say. If you've got a crib biting horse or a wood chewing horse, it's going to learn. All the others are going to learn from it. It's not there either. It doesn't happen. You can increase the stress levels that causes that stereotypy to happen in others, but they don't learn from what. So it's just a very basic introduction into the kind of art and science of clicker training. What you are seeing is there's a lot less mugging behaviour. He's not fiddling with the bum bag. He just wants to eat the lovely stuff, which is fine. This is all normal, natural behaviour. And it's just a starting point. From here, second session, and again, this is said in the book a little bit, that you start to give a click, but you don't necessarily reward that. You wait, see if the animal offers it again. And then you begin to build in this variable schedule where the animal gets the rewards.
I have a question, Ben.
Yeah, go.
So with a little guy like this who's taking a little bit longer to actually touch the target instead of biting it, staying away from the tongue bag, etc., will you go a little bit longer with the session and just end with the positive?
Absolutely. Just trying to find some really nice, soft, good stuff. The same rules of training apply, so yeah. And actually, finally, and it's all about learning. I'm kind of stood here thinking that actually this is not a great target for this animal, although he's more interested in it. Because he's so mouthy, it's harder for him to focus on doing what he's supposed to be doing. Okay? And so this is much more frustrating for him compared to maybe the green one, which would have been easier. And sometimes you just have to figure that stuff out. Sometimes you just play with it and you try it and you go, what, thinking about it, biting this, chewing on that, it's the wrong target for this. Actually, that's much easier for him just to touch. And so that's the art bit. That's the bit where you play with and you kind of figure out and you do all those things. But as I said, one of the key things is that you recognize something that should be relatively simple. Just touch this thing here and get some food there. Do you see how difficult that is to learn? Now imagine if you were scared of targets. And it makes you realize that everything else we want to do with a donkey, how difficult is it for them to learn? And we're motivating him with food. Imagine if we're using punishment or negative reinforcement. I think it's a fantastic tool. I think it's as good as the hands that are holding it. I think you don't have to use it for everything. There are some animals and some people that shouldn't be doing it. If you've got really bad timing, if you're consistently distracted because you can't be in the moment and you're kind of thinking lots of different stuff, and sometimes, the click was right and then it was early and sometimes it was late, just put the clicker down and walk away because you're going to do more damage than good. It's better to have a blunt tool, which is just your body language, than it is that clicker, which is a really powerful motivator and marker of behavior. So it's a very brief introduction. I can see Eric creeping in here. I need to shut up and get on. Finally, any questions that are really important? Burning now?
I don't know how burning this is, but I got the mic, so.
Good, go for it.
Debate that I've been wrestling with for many years is kind of analogous to being a parent, and there's one style of parent that says you biggest of maybe positive reinforcement. And then there's another one that says, you know, you got to raise your kids to learn that you're the authoritarian. And my question for you is, are there, if you're an expert clicker trainer, positive reinforcement trainer, are there still times when other training techniques are really the best or the only really way? I'm just trying to find the balance between positive reinforcement.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, really, to take that into a few seconds, you're training a killer whale using fish, okay? That's positive reinforcement, yeah? Is it really positive for the killer whale? I'm not sure. He's in a bad environment, he's swimming around. If he doesn't do what he's supposed to do, he goes hungry. Maybe that's not really positive. And so, for me, the take is that positive reinforcement is a really powerful tool. You can manipulate and ruin an animal just the same with positive reinforcement as you can with negative. You can do all sorts of crazy things. You can reward the wrong behaviors. You can teach happy ears to an aggressive animal so now you don't know when he's going to bite your face off. You can do all sorts of crazy stuff like that. I think the skill is in knowing when to use the positive reinforcement as a tool to help the animal, not as a manipulator to control behavior. And that there are other times that actually, for me, here, this guy here, I probably wouldn't start out with clicker training with him. He doesn't have some basic understanding of just not pulling, and that I'd just use negative reinforcement to teach him about leading and standing still and being patient, and we'd bring those things under control. And then I might think if it was something I really wanted to do for a particular reason, it was right for him, and might bring in that. Would I still use scratches as positive reinforcement? Absolutely. I'd mark the good behaviors all the time. Crucial. But would I go to this level of motivation? Possibly not with this animal at this stage. So sometimes it's the right thing. I'm a great believer you still have to have boundaries, you still have to have rules, you still have to stay safe. You know, it's great being positive with kids, but if they're about to run out in front of a truck, you probably don't want to wait for them to stop so you can click and reward. You know, you're going to yell and stop them. And so it's that balance, and that's why I think we're a problem. The clicker training world has those people that are 100% clicker training. If you're not clicker training, you're cruel. You know, and you got people that just, that's completely and utterly nuts. Why would you do that with animals? If you give them food, they're going to kill you. And somewhere in the middle are the people who are just kind of going, well, you know, I use it appropriately and then I phase it out, and we don't need to keep using food all the time, and it's absolutely fine. So I think it's about the skill and courage to just know what's right for that animal in the situation, really. And what that type of animal is. Does that kind of answer it in a condensed kind of style?
Then I get to ask a question. So, I've been impressed by clicker training, and I think one of the demonstrations here is the difference in personalities between animals and how that works.
Yep.
Between Cindy's Janet and my gelding, how differently they respond to it.
Yep.
But if I wanted to extend that to a performance, in other words, I want to train my donkey to pull a cart and move ahead with more speed. I mean, it's hard for me to understand how I could use clicker training to do that.
Yeah, and I think in that scenario, it's a lot about being good at shaping. So it's, you know, how do you train the animal to do that moving forward and pick out the best things under long training. You then come back to the foxtrot and we put it on a cue, and then we're able to offer the cue in the more difficult situations, such as the driving or whatever, and we begin to use it in that way. Can you do that? Yes, absolutely. Is it always the right thing to do? Sometimes I think it just muddies the water, and it's easier just to use what you're going to use, which is your negative reinforcement and a little bit of pressure and releasing the pressure in the right place and that sort of thing. So again, it comes back to the question, it's about that balance. Can you do it? Yeah, absolutely. Do we always need to? No, I don't think we do. But it is about shaping, definitely. And again, you know, you have to ask yourself a question. One of the limitations would be a food possessive animal. So for me, you'd have to be pretty good to do clicker training, use food with an animal like that. So I'd probably put that as a limitation and go, why would you go there? If you want to, you have to set it up. So you start by training them how this all works, but you do it over a stable door or a stable chain so that they can't come into your space and trample you and extract it. You know, maybe you would get that set up, spend more time doing it. You might do some training with food in a bucket. So it's about knowing when it's going to work for you. When's the best time, when to walk away. It's no different from any other training method. You know, you got to think about it. Just because somebody on the internet said you got to do clicker training does it really resonate with you after a week's contemplation? You know, can you set it up, go out, get the information about trying these different things? And if you try it and you're just really feeling this is a train wreck, just walk away from it. You know, maybe it's the animal, maybe it's you, but that's okay. I'm kind of considered a bit of a heretic because I don't just go, yeah, it's clicker training and positive reinforcement, you got to use it for everything. There is no magic bullet. Everybody will tell you there's no magic bullet unless you become a 100% clicker trainer, then you'll claim that is the magic bullet that you previously said that didn't exist. But that's just my opinion. So, for a donkey like this, see, I'd spend much more time getting this fella just calm, quiet, around us, and then see whether we wanted to introduce it. This fella here, yeah, might open him up a bit and get him doing things and moving forward, and that would be quite nice. Any other questions? I mean, you can come and find me and ask questions later, but has anybody got a question that's burning? Actually, no, you can't. You can't ask another question. Just whether this always happens. Any questions? No. We'll walk over there. 6 of you will come up and say, can I just ask a question? No, you can't. Yeah. Hang on, just 1 second. He's got to run. Over there. Hey, look, everybody got a question then. Oh, no, they were just pointing at that lady.
No, I wanted to go back to the reward, the food.
Yep.
And everything, because I've been told with my donkeys when I first started socializing with them, I gave them a lot of carrots.
Yep.
And I feel like that hasn't been that nutritionally helpful for them.
Yep.
And so I monitor now how many carrots I give them.
Good.
What would you, in fact, I'm not giving them much right now.
Yep.
But what would you recommend, you know, so that you're not trying to put weight on them?
Good. I'd recommend you never give carrots just because you want your donkey to love you. I would only ever give carrots for mental stimulation, environment enrichment. Reward in that sense. If you want to use food rewards for clicker training, like I said, low value, low energy, low sugar, high-fi foods that are designed for laminitics, hi-fi cubes that are very low in energy, with the occasional carrot or the occasional bit of small apple. That needs to be in there just to increase the motivation. But I'd very much keep it small, just part of their normal ration. If you've got donkeys on grass and you're moving the fence, if you want to just go out and get a little bit of that, go out and get a little bit of food before you let them out to the fence, use just the normal grass that they might be getting. Or just go for scratches. Quick, all the way back here, Cindy. Go. Oh, big fella. You know.
Ben, I just wanted to say that as long as you are using a halter and a lead rope, or
Yep.
you're going to do any groundwork or driving or whatever, you are using
Yep.
pressure and release. So
Absolutely.
even though, like, I would say that I use clicker training as
Yep.
a training tool,
Good.
but I'm still using pressure and release.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no such thing as 100%.
Oh, you're obviously not on the right websites. You haven't posed the question in the right forums. Yeah, you know, and it's kind of interesting, this guy looking at his behavior, and you know I'm a behavioral freak. You can just see how he's trying to elicit the attention and the work and getting into all of this sort of thing. Could I reward him for standing still and everything? Yeah, I could. We need to create that patience. And I tell you what, you wouldn't get patience from this animal with one click and one reward, you know, because he'd just get, he's into it and he's got all this going on. And you know, normally if it was my animal at home or we had a different environment, I'd actually work without the head collar on and the lead rope. Whoa. Yeah, he's breaking the place down quick. There's that frustration. This is the particular animal. And again, it doesn't matter clicker or whether you got a lead rope or whatever. It's about who you are as a trainer. It's about your application of the science of behavior. Can you keep your patience, or are you going to punch him in the face? You know, it's your choice. But he's going to learn different things from different approaches. And this is all just about experience. See, you know what? See, positive reinforcement is so powerful. This has been reinforced. You know this is because it's here. So he pushes on people, and people go, oh, hey, stop that. That's really naughty. Don't do it. Shit, I just walk into people, people give me attention. As opposed to catching the right behavior, which is marking the standing still. And getting the timing right and doing all that sort of thing. So the positive reinforcement is a really powerful tool if that's what you want. If we know that he's doing it for attention, if he just wants to go home, then it's a different behavior. Wow. Thank you very much indeed. That's a tiny introduction. It's just an opportunity to